School's out. Time for a family holiday in Spain, Italy, Portugal and Greece.
Scattered outbreaks of showery rain will occur tomorrow, some heavy and possibly thundery, with the risk of spot flooding. Highest afternoon temperatures of 15 to 20 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. We're showcasing every single Lions game, full commentaries of all matches, including all of the tests in South Africa. Our coverage of the 2021 tour on OTB Sports, brought to you by Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. So let's try and make sense of what we've seen today. They didn't have it all their own way, the Lions, against the Sharks in their latest warm-up game in Pretoria. The second game against the Sharks this week, it was very decent of them to fulfil it. It was at altitude today. They were level at 26 points apiece at half-time, 4 tries apiece. But the sending off of Jaden Hendricks early in the second half effectively ended the Sharks' hopes. The Lions would finish with 11 tries in a 40-point win. 71-31 the final score. Tadhg Beirne touching down twice. Jack Conan also crossing the whitewash. Conor Murray came on, the tour captain. He would end up with the sin bin, that type of game. The former Ireland and Leinster players Mike McCarthy and Fergus McFadden join us again to look back on proceedings. Mike, try and make sense of that for us, will you?
Yeah, story of two halves, I think. The first half, Sharks turned up with a very physical, spirited and motivated performance. But, you wonder, was there a bit of complacency there from the British and Irish Lions in terms of, were they expecting it just to happen? What's gone on in the week with the kind of the COVID situation, guys pulling out before the game, and then also, the previous scores they've had, were they just expecting it to happen? And, the Sharks showed how lethal they are off turnovers. There was a lot of unforced errors from the Lions, forcing the offloads, running into touch, missed clear-outs at the breakdown. And then as they approached half-time, they changed up their tactics, against that blitz defence, started picking and going and got more traction there. I think it was Tadhg Beirne pick and go try just before half-time. And then obviously second half, the red card completely changed it. So I'm sure Warren Gatland will be kind of certainly disappointed to concede that many points defensively. He'll be disappointed the Sharks went down to 14 men in terms of the Lions preparation, competing against a full team. So yeah, I suppose it is a positive that there are a lot of work-ons going into this, and there's nothing like a kind of a tough review for the players to kind of bring them back down to earth going into a test series. But yeah, I thought standouts were probably Tadhg Beirne. I thought he was phenomenal again. Some lovely running lines, showed how dangerous he is at turning over the ball at the breakdown. And yeah, really good in the line-out. So he was great. And I thought in the backs, Duhan van der Merwe, absolutely incredible. Surely he's playing himself into a test start. His footwork for a big man's incredible. And we know about his speed. So yeah, lots to work on though.
It was a 47-point win during the week. It's a 48-point win today, Fergus, but very different type of match. Was it a wake-up call for you in any regard for the Lions?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, the first half, I'd say they got a rocket up their arses from Warren Gatland. Now, I'd say he wasn't overly happy because some of the handling was pretty loose from the British and Irish Lions, which led to a couple of easy scores for the Sharks off turnover. So yeah, conceding over 30 points in these midweek games would not be something that the Lions management would be too happy with. But really, in the second half, when the ship was steadied, granted the Sharks were down to 14 men, but Conor Murray came on, and I thought he made such a difference. You asked Mike there what players stood out. I think in the period Conor came on, he was one of the best players in the field. I think his control and the speed of the ball and the tempo of the game just picked up, and I think the relationship himself and Biggar are building seems to be a very good one, because I thought Dan Biggar played a lot better when he was playing with Conor as well.
Wouldn't go unnoticed as well, Fergus, and that puts them both in prime position to start the test, the first one.
You'd think so, yeah. Well, Conor is captain, that's him as a nailed-on starter, and I think from the way he's played, he's a nailed-on starter anyway. So Dan Biggar has been probably the favourite to take the number 10 shirt, and I suppose the first half was probably mixed, but it was mixed from the British and Irish Lions in general. But I think when they got into their flow in the second half, Dan Biggar was very good. He was spotting some space. He was probing in tight with some good forward runners, and then some long passes over the top, along with a try assist in the first half. So overall, and very good off the kicking tee. So overall, a good performance with him too.
Was it deserved sending off for the Sharks player Hendrickson, Mike?
I thought you were going to ask Ferg. Yeah, it was fair. It was fair. Yeah, no, it was definitely. So yeah, obviously, not ideal for your captain to take 10 minutes in the bin, but it's probably that over exuberance of the thrill of being captain, and just it's kind of a positive from a negative, because it's only from the want of trying to make a big impact coming off the bench. But yeah, as Ferg said, he played incredibly well when he came on, really lifted the tempo, and that partnership with Biggar is very good. Slightly worrying seeing Biggar with how heavily strapped his knee was, and then in the 73rd minute where Sharks had that advantage, they chipped over the top and Dan Biggar got tackled after he caught the ball. He seemed to be limping and grimacing a bit there, so fingers crossed there's no kind of damage to his knee, obviously with Finn Russell being out as well.
Yeah, and Marcus Smith has been called up now to the touring party, the 22-year-old Englishman, providing cover for Finn Russell and possibly Biggar. For Mike, was there anything in the concession of those 4 tries in the first half that would worry you?
It's just probably reaction and speed to react to a turnover. And I think the first lesson which they'll look at in the review is, were they going out trying to be like the Harlem Globetrotters in that first half, just thinking it was going to happen? When you're playing a test match, it's all about doing the basic things well, doing the simple things well, not forcing the offload, certainly not giving those 50-50s. With finishers like Cheslin Colby, off turnover ball, you don't want to be giving up the ball cheaply, and you've got to respect the ball. So a good lesson in terms of, look after the ball, respect it, don't throw those 50-50 offloads, and, rather kind of keep building those phases and, getting traction that way. But, another positive was definitely the line out. That was a positive. That functioned very well. Jamie George threw very well. And, I suppose it's South Africa haven't had a game. That's another game. South Africa haven't played a game. At least the Lions have got more minutes in the legs. They've got more togetherness. They're more off the same page. So it's definitely a positive step and a building block towards, the Test series, and probably one over South Africa in terms of preparation.
Yeah, that's a good point. The combinations, the mistakes, the things you can iron out. You can look at the video, as you say. South Africa have had these COVID issues in their camp. They're coming in very, very raw to the test, as good as they are. Fergus, Mike was effusive in his praise there for Tadhg Beirne. How did you feel he played?
Brilliant game, yeah. He seemed to, the altitude didn't seem to affect him at all, actually. I thought some of the players that had started leading into the second half looked a little bit tired, but Tadhg had some great individual moments in both the first and second half, scoring 2 tries. And I think when they were under the caution that first half, he was one of the players that stood up. He had a number of good carries before he scored that pick and go try. And then he was, in the right place at the right time in the second half. I think his work rate is just outstanding, and I think it would make you think, is he maybe more of a 6 than a second row, even for when he does come back to Ireland after this Lions tour, because his engine is just outstanding.
Do you see him as a 6, Mike, Tadhg Beirne?
Well, I think he can play either at club level, but I think for international level, obviously he's proven that he's got more caps in the second row, I think, than he has at 6 for Ireland. But I think for Test level, I think he is more of a 6. Especially when you come up against those bigger teams like South Africa and France, England, say. I think, I prefer to see him at 6. But yeah, like today, we've touched on it. But, he created a try where he gave a beautiful offload off the floor. We spoke about his running lines. And that engine he's got, it just keeps going and going. And, he showed, I think he's had the highest number of turnovers during the Six Nations, 2021, 10 turnovers. And he's just relentless with his work rate, his effort, he just backs it up with a positive after a positive, and he just keeps going all day long. Thought he was phenomenal.
Jack Conan did well against Japan, Mike, and he's got a try today. How would you rate his overall contribution to the play?
I don't think it would be at the standard he would have hoped, certainly. He was fantastic against Japan. It didn't start off great with he was a bit late there was a turnover when, who was it? Carried the ball. Gareth Davies carried the ball into contact and a little bit late in his arrival to the breakdown. So But yeah, as the game went on, I thought he improved, and as always, he's very workmanlike and worked hard. So yeah, he grew into the game as it went on.
And Tadhg Furlong, Mike, the set piece and the scrum, did that function well?
Yeah, well, it started. They got a penalty off the first scrum where they kicked to the corner and went to drive a maul, but that didn't come off. But yeah, himself and Sutherland, I think that's could possibly be the starting front row. And we spoke before the game about bread and butter and doing what you get good at and getting your basics right. And you can't ask for more than I think the first two scrums they got 2 penalties, so it was a dominant display in terms of the set piece, the scrum as using it as a weapon.
Anthony Watson got a couple of tries on his first start today. Fergus, did he impress you? Do you see him as a starter in the 15 for the Test series?
He was probably one of the favourites to start on one of the wings leading into the tour. You can't ignore what Johan van der Merwe and Josh Adams have done since they got over there. Every opportunity they've had, albeit against lesser, opposition, they've been two of the standout players of the tour so far. So they're going to have to come into the conversation. I think for the actual Test series at the moment, I'd probably go with Watson and Josh Adams with Stuart Hogg at fullback.
Would you agree with Fergus there, Mike, in terms of that back three?
I'm just looking at I've got here for my one, the back three, I've got Josh Adams and Liam Williams and Stuart Hogg. Yeah. So no slight difference.
Maybe not the first time you've disagreed. If you were to say Rassie Erasmus...
yeah, but I don't know the backs, do I? So look, we'll go off Ferg's one.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are Rassie Erasmus, Fergus, and you've been watching this Lions, is there anything that would concern you from an opposition's point of view, that person's playing really well, or is there anything that you think you could possibly put down at the notebook as something to exploit, or is it even too early to have that discussion? But I'm just interested in what the South Africans might be thinking at the moment of what they've seen.
Yeah, I think there's plenty for them to go through in terms of footage anyway. It's just hard to know, what Rassie Erasmus will look at, quite seriously, because so far the opposition has not been great. I think I haven't really figured out what way the Lions are actually playing just yet. So they're throwing the ball around quite well and they're keeping in tight at times, but I'm not sure what the actual philosophy is. Because leading into the South African game, and I know that Gatland, he likes to be direct and win collisions, win the gain line, good set piece, but that literally is South Africa's bread and butter, and they're the best in the world at it. They showed it at the last World Cup. So they're going to have something different. They're going to have to, maybe the idea of playing Barrel at 12, like we discussed earlier, and having that extra distributor, because the South Africans have one of the hardest line speeds in defence in the world. So trying to get around that with a wide game plan isn't always easy. So it's an interesting one.
Do you think we're still working out the style based on what Fergus has said there, Mike?
Yeah, I think so. Just in terms of what you said there with Rassie Erasmus looking on, anything to worry about, I think he'll be worried about the South Africans' kind of match fitness. Obviously they haven't had any preparation. They'll be looking at these games thinking, the Lions are playing regularly. They've got a regular number of games. Guys are match fit. They're coming off an end of a season. So I think he'll be very concerned about the lack of game time that South Africa have had in only playing Georgia since the World Cup final. So that's going to be a big concern, and especially the way the Lions played. Yes, it was against 14 men today, but that second half where they seem to have a lot of kind of energy still in the tank to go out and put a good performance in the second half. I'm sure they've identified, the Conor Murray's box kick got charged down. I know it was a one-off, but they had no blockers there. So on exits, I'm sure that's something they picked up. That the Lions, they only had 2 in the breakdown, and then Conor Murray had no kind of pillars standing up in the way to protect him from the box kick, and they got charged down. They scored. So little things like that. I'm sure that's been put on the list. And as Ferg said, when South Africa play you, their game plan, they have one game plan. They want to bully you. They want to win the collisions. They want to win the physicality. And that's the way Warren Gatland plays as well. That's how he wanted to play with Wales, having a strong pack, a physical pack. Jamie Roberts banging it, hitting a hard line, getting over the gain line, and that's what I think the game plan that Warren will want to do, and he'll be thinking he wants to outmatch the physicality of South Africa, which is, you know, a very difficult thing to do, as we saw in the World Cup, where England hammered New Zealand in the semi-final, but then, you know, didn't have that same physicality, or didn't match the physicality of the South Africans in the final. So, you know, he's certainly going to be looking to pick his most physical and big and powerful team he can do.
And just before we go, I know they've been rotating teams, Fergus, over the last few weeks, but what is a player's mindset now who's played today? Is it just recovery? Is it just trying to get the body back into some kind of peak condition for the next game, whenever that'll be, whether they get a chance on Wednesday like Van der Merwe did, he got a couple of games in a row, or if they're back at it again next weekend?
Yeah, I think it'll just be recovery. In fairness, there's not a whole lot of distractions that the guys can have, or excuses on that front, because they're just going to be stuck in the hotel. So, yeah, when you see someone like Bundy Keys played 4 games on the bounce, you know, it's impressive, but he's going to need a break now. So any of the guys that have played successive matches, you know, you'd want them to recover as best as possible, you know, leading into a couple of really big weeks.
Okay, and Ireland, the USA as well this evening. Fergus and Mike, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for speaking to us.
Cheers, guys.
Fergus McFadden and Mike McCarthy there recapping today's win for the Lions over the Sharks, 71-31, 11 tries in Pretoria, with Tadhg Beirne getting a couple and Jack Conan also getting a couple, one rather, and Conor Murray came on. So we have got commentary of every Lions game here on News Talk on Off the Ball. The next scheduled match, we'll see if it happens exactly, but it's against South Africa A in Cape Town at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. It could be the Stormers. Our coverage, remember, brought to you by Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Cork are into the Munster football final. They beat Limerick 116-11 points at the Gaelic grounds earlier on. Cavan have lost, though, their Ulster Crown. They went down 118-13 points to Tyrone at Healy Park. We're going to hear from Kyle Coney and also Eamon Dunphy after this break.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
On the latest Tech Talk, would the right to repair make fixing your devices easier or lead to a host of new headaches? Alex Cooney of CyberSafe Kids will explain the new online safety boot camps they're running this summer. Plus, we'll hear about the newly unveiled Nintendo Switch.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Thanks to Think. Visit thinkpm.ie.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now, or tune in this evening at the later time of 8 p.m.
on News Talk.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Every time you hear AI